Hello and welcome to the Hunchtime NFL Preview Podcast. I'm joined by our resident expert Biggie, who had quite a fun time with his anti-post bets last year, and he's back to give us his insight into the upcoming NFL season. Hello Biggie, how are things?
Great, Mr. Lunchtime. All good. Last year went spectacularly well in that I predicted the Jets to be under 6.5, the Giants to be under 6.5, the Bengals to be under 6.5, and Seattle to be over 10, which pretty much robbed home. I found last year the bookies did a way worse job of predicting overs and unders, and this season I found it so much more difficult to find any value. No team stood out to me massively this year. Those four stood out to me off the cuff last year. I also had one with a 10-team over or under, and I was let down by one game by the Raiders. But again, the bookies have done a way better job this year. So again, what we're going to talk about today, take it with a pinch of salt. I haven't a clue if any of these are going to come in. We're just going to do our best.
Just one thing before we go on is I remember last year the benefits of doing a season bet were definitely there for me to see anyways last year, when you had your little sweat at the end as you were waiting on, I think it was the Jets was all you were waiting on for the last few weeks. Now they comfortably came under the 6.5, but they did show a bit of signs at the end of the season that they could threaten to go over that. But the benefits were there in that if you have most of them up, you can cover yourself towards the end. I thought that was very interesting now last year, just watching you having the sweat.
We have 100%. It was the Giants, and they played. Seattle romped to 10 wins, so they needed one more, and they had 4 games left, I think, maybe 5, and they were playing the Giants in Seattle, and Russell Wilson didn't turn up, which was absolutely terrifying. The Giants shock win. They were on 4 wins. They got a shock win to bring them to 5. And then I was thinking, Jesus, there's 3 weeks left. Could the Giants win their last 3 games? And it was conceivable because their division was bollocks. Just a bit of a sweat at the end. But again, if you have your season bets in, if you like them, there's every chance to hedge during the season, especially if you have a nice bit of money coming back. You can hedge with a few euro here, a few euro there for the last few weeks of the year. Extra game this season as well, which the bookies have basically discounted. It's a very strange sort of scenario, but the overs and unders for each team are basically the same as last year. That 17th game, they're leaving hanging. So it's much harder to find unders.
Right. Sure, we'll start anyways. We'll start with the AFC East. And we'll start with the team I fancy the Super Bowl at 12-1 in the Bills. And I'll let you talk. I'll let you go through this division.
Just to fly through it. The Bills are fantastic last year. Josh Allen, after 2 average years coming of age, which is normal for a quarterback, he was picked around number 5, number 6. I can't remember, but that was 3 years ago. Josh Allen had a 90+ PFF grade. He was unbelievable last year. The Bills have one of the best receivers in the game in Stephon Diggs. They have one of the best coaches in the game, young coaches in Sean McDermott. Their defense is a very interesting modern defense. It encourages you to run on them. It tries to stop you passing on them. And Josh Allen has a massive arm. They're going to fling it all over the field. The running attack, if it's better, it was non-existent last year. If they can get something going there this year, I can't see anybody else winning that division.
No, I would be with you on that one now, to be honest. Who would you see as the dangers to them?
The Dolphins were 10-6 last year. Again, Brian Flores, Bill Belichick disciple, plays that same sort of defense. The Giant. What's really interesting about the Dolphins is they've gotten Jalen Waddle in, an absolute speedster at receiver. They were already unbelievably fast in their passing game. Now Tua Tagovailoa in year 2, he looked very average last year. That's fine for a quarterback coming out of college. If he takes a step forward, the Dolphins, on the back of a brilliant defense, could be good. The Patriots, they've spent a fortune on quite average players, which is something I've never seen Bill Belichick do before. Cam Newton, a quarterback, I think they're just going to play an absolute bulldozer running game with him leading the charge. Their wide receivers are pathetic. But all the NFL is zigging. They're all just passing. Bill Belichick is going to zag this year and play an old school hard-nosed running game. Their run blocking is absolutely brilliant. They're going to be trying to run over teams. How long can Cam Newton do that and stay fit? Really interesting fact. Big players get injured more than small players in the NFL, and it's by quite a margin. And every time you're picking a quarterback out of college, if you remember when Kyler Murray came after Baker Mayfield, they're like, oh, they're so small, they're under 6'4", whatever. That has no correlation to how often they'll get injured. Big guys actually get injured more often. They hold on to the ball longer, they take bigger chances. But yeah, and finally the Jets, Zach Wilson, number 2 pick overall this year. The Jets were an absolute shit show last year. Robert Salah comes in, looks like a really good defensive coach. Rebuild should be good. Everybody is going there over 6.5 wins. I think they're comfortably the worst team in this division. I think they're going to get 6 or 5, and they're going to be under. But 5 wins, they could be way better than last year, but at least they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I have to say that is one of my favorite. Just going at looking at last year, like they won 2 games last year. I know there's an extra game this year, but that under 6.5 Jets win that you have on site on www.hunchtime.com is one of my favorite bets up there, to be honest with you now. We'll move on to the AFC West, and we have most people's favorites for the Super Bowl and a lot of people's favorite quarterback in action in this division.
Yeah, that is the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. Coach Andy Reid has never been under in the last 8 years and the over-unders. So it doesn't fucking matter what the bookie set for him, he's going over. He's also probably still the best attacking mind in the game. Get the best attacking mind, the best young quarterback, the best quarterback in the game. The problem they have, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, tight end, wide receiver, arguably the 2 best in the game at those positions. That's basically it. Their third choice wide receivers, Mecole Hardman, very average. Robinson's number 4, very, very average. They've had no injuries for the last few years. If any of those 3 go down, the Kansas City Chiefs will suffer. Their division is tougher this year. I think they're over 12.5 wins. And there's something I really want to bring up here. This is why I'm stressing the unders this year. Americans have sort of, from what I can see in the NFL context, they don't believe COVID exists anymore. A lot of people haven't got vaccinated in teams. And if you have Mahomes out for 3 or 4 weeks, that's probably 3 or 4 losses. So just be very, very careful about going the overs, especially the big ones like 12.5, 13, whatever the Chiefs are. Fly through the rest of this division. Raiders 8-8. I think they're going to go under 7.5 wins this year. John Gruden has drafted poorly, in my opinion. Derek Carr was very good last year. I think he's going to regress a little bit. Defense looks dodgy. Offensive line looks dodgy. Chargers, everybody is going over on the Chargers. 9.5 wins. Justin Herbert, the quarterback, looked brilliant last year, flinging the ball down the field, taking big risks. Those risks, as we've seen before with Carson Wentz, those risks can come back. It comes back towards the mean sometimes. I think they'll be about 9 wins and a playoff contender. The Broncos have one of the best defenses in the division. They have Drew Lock at quarterback, or Teddy Bridgewater, or Drew Lockwater, or whatever you want to call it. They're 2 shit quarterbacks, and that won't be enough. Defense won't win you games against the Chargers and the Chiefs. So I think, yeah, they're going nowhere.
Great stuff, Biggie. And now moving on to the AFC North, where I find that one of your more interesting bets, in that the Steelers last year went 12-4, and you have them up as under 9 wins this year.
Yeah, that's one that we may have to reconsider on site. Mike Tomlin, their coach, has never been under 500. His worst record ever was 8-8 when he was playing a 3rd string quarterback. Big Ben is back this year. He's in less horrendous shape than he usually is, which is a good thing. The problem is their O-line is bad, so he's going to be under pressure. The best wide receiver is possibly Chase Claypool, who just got injured. He's only a year 2 receiver. I just really don't fancy them. One of the reasons is their division is so hard. The Ravens, until somebody can stop Lamar Jackson, the Ravens are going to just clean up a lot of teams. They do struggle to come from behind because they run the ball a lot, They've added Rashad Bateman at wide receiver, who's now actually also injured, but he's only injured for a few weeks. They've added him at wide receiver. Jackson is going to be as good as ever unless the league has figured him out. If you can stop Jackson running, the Ravens will struggle to be around 9 wins this year. I don't think anybody can stop Lamar Jackson running the football. He's just impossible. He's a cheat code. I think they're going to be 11 or 12 wins, the Ravens. At the Browns, I have them over 10 wins on site. It's around 4 to 5. They were over 9.5 wins. That line will not be there at the start of the season. I don't trust Baker Mayfield at all. I think he's a middle of the pack average quarterback, but the Browns have possibly the best roster in the NFL. Kevin Stefanski puts through an unbelievable running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. So it takes a lot of the pressure off Baker. Last year they got 11 wins. This year Odell Beckham Jr. is back and fully fit. Another target for him to throw to. Their defensive line is absolutely unbelievable. I think Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year could be a steal. And finally, the Bengals. Joe Burrow's back after getting his knee ripped apart last year. Brilliant last year up until he got messed up. He got Jamar Chase in, his best friend from college, as a wide receiver. The Bengals will be so much fun to watch. Flinging the ball. He was throwing the ball 60 times last year. Just flinging it all over the place. Games, 30 points. Any overs in their games, I love this year. But they're not.
That's just one thing I was going to say to you there. Just even looking at their points for and points against of the 4 teams in this AFC North, it just strikes me as one of the divisions where I'd be very keen to go for, no matter what the overs are in a match, over 55 or whatever, in a game between any of these 2 teams playing against each other. Especially when you look at the Browns and the Ravens. Like, you'd imagine they'll be all high-scoring games, and that'll be just something I'd be very keen to have a look at this year.
Yeah, 100%. Let's move on.
Now we're going to move on, and we're going to look at the AFC South, where I have a little sneaky feeling that there's going to be a dark horse lying this year in the Titans after signing Julio Jones. They're priced up for 12 to 17 wins. They had 11 wins last year. There's an extra game this year, and for 12 to 17 wins, they're available at 14 to 5. That's one I like. So yeah, I'd let you take it away from there.
Yeah, I'll go bottom to top in this division. The Texans are horseshit. Last year they had, like, Deshaun Watson is top 2 to top 5 quarterback in the game. He's in serious hot water in court. Might never play football again. Almost definitely won't play this year for the Texans. I just can't see it happening. They got 4 wins with him last year. They're markedly worse this year. Fire sale. They mightn't win a game. Under 4 wins for them is a superb bet. I just can't see them winning anything. Jacksonville one win last year. The prodigal son Trevor Lawrence comes in. He's the best ever quarterback I've seen playing high school, and continued that form into college. Apparently, since Joe Montana, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, he's the best prospect to ever come into the game. But the Jags need a bit of a rebuild. I think, like the Jets, 6 wins for them, still under 6.5, but 6 wins for them could be a brilliant season, because they still have loads of draft. They still have loads of cap to bring in players next year. And as long as Trevor Lawrence stays fit for the year, improves, 6 wins for them could be a brilliant season. The Colts with a 1st-round pick on getting in Carson Wentz from the Eagles. After he had a mini breakdown last year, he was the worst quarterback in the NFL by a mile. But he's injured, and he's out for between 5 and 12 weeks with a mysterious foot break. So, like, the Colts, again, they're a fantastic team. They're a very good team all over the pitch, but they lack at wide receiver, and now they'll be playing some backup quarterback, some no-name quarterback for an indefinite amount of time. I don't know what to make of the Colts. I can't make anything of them. So that leaves the Titans over 9.5 wins, I think, at the moment. Mike Vrabel is brilliant. Their defense is horse shit, especially their secondary. So there's going to be teams scoring 30 points on them all the time. Now, on the plus side, Vrabel's a brilliant attacking coach. He takes massive risks, which I love to see. AJ Brown was one of the best number 1 receivers in the league. Pop in Julio Jones. How long can Julio stay fit for? He is the best receiver of his generation if he stays fit. If they get Julio for 14, 15 games, I don't know how many points they're going to put up per game, but like whatever over is in Tennessee, I'll be taking it. I don't think they're going to get more than the division. The division is so bad that I think they could get 10 wins, but I'm nervous against the bigger boys. They could take hidings. What was between 9 and 12 wins?
31 to 20. Between 9, 10 or 11 wins, 31 to 20.
Yeah,
So,
if I was going Titans, I think I like that. I'd be really, really happy with that. It's a nice price. I think we might pop that up on site as well. The defense is such a worry though. But Ryan Tannehill, since he left Miami, has been class. I love that running threat he has as well. When the pass isn't on, he can still get you the first down. I think that's the kind of the new modern way in the NFL. These statuesque quarterbacks who just have to fling it out and play. They're kind of they want guys who can do it all. I don't mind that bet. Let's move on.
So we'll move on to one of the more open divisions in the whole thing, in the NFC East, where we have Washington, the Giants, Cowboys, and the Eagles.
Yeah, again, we're going to fly through the Eagles rebuild mode. Didn't take a quarterback when they had the option this year of taking Justin Fields. They're going to wait until next year when Spencer Rattler is coming out. If anybody ever watched the Netflix show, I think it's called QB1, where they show 3 quarterbacks coming through. Do you remember Justin Fields was in one with Spencer Rattler? Spencer Rattler is coming out next year. He's meant to be brilliant. He'll be the #1 overall pick. The Eagles are going to be looking to try to get that pick. Whether they win, say, 3 or 4 games this year, they might have to give up a few picks in the future, try to get to #1 or pick whoever's the second best next year. But yeah, the Eagles will be sort of maximum 7 wins, minimum 2. The Giants look to be massively improved on defense. Their offense is going to, like, they have so many weapons in, especially the likes of Saquon Barkley coming back. Their wide receivers are awesome. Can Daniel Jones play quarterback in the NFL? I have yet to see it. This is his 3rd year. If he's good this year, the Giants could win 10 games. I don't see it. I think they're going to win around 7 or 8. I just have no faith in Daniel Jones. But like, we've seen 3rd year improvements from the likes of Josh Allen before. So possibly for Giants fans, there's plenty to hope for. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott is back. Mike McCarthy, since he left Aaron Rodgers, looks a lot worse of a coach. Their defense is awful. Their wide receiver group is extraordinary, led by Amari Cooper again. But you're going to have to watch out for Dak coming back. If Dak is fit, he's a really excellent quarterback. The Cowboys games are just going to be insane because they couldn't stop anyone last. So it's just going to be turn for turn. If you get under over 50 points in a Cowboys game, you're smashing the overall year. I do apologize.
Just one thing there, sorry to cut you off, but just looking at last year's NFC East, it just strikes me in comparison to every single other division that not one team broke the 400 points barrier over the season, and that was the Cowboys. Actually, they were the closest. They hit 395, and the rest of them didn't manage to beat 340, which is quite low in comparison to every other team. So that would worry me and probably send me to a lot of unders games. Maybe the Cowboys aside, but like when you have the Giants and Washington playing against each other, the Eagles, I'd probably be very keen to take the unders on that. I know you can't base everything up last year. We had no crowds last year. Like we've seen already in football, what a massive difference that has made already. So maybe that would be different, but I'd be very worried about overs on a lot of these teams throughout the season, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting point. The Eagles played Jalen Hurts, a 2nd-round quarterback last year. Very, very hard for a 2nd-round quarterback to come in to an offense that was not going well. They struggled to put up any points. The Cowboys played 80% of the year without their quarterback, Dak Prescott. They were playing some scrub for about 6 or 7 games. They were a nothing team last year. That's going to be very, very different this year. They could be an offensive juggernaut. The Giants, Daniel Jones, year 2 looked average. They've massively improved their offensive line. He's going to have more time. Basically, for Daniel Jones, it's like they've given him everything this year. He has the running backs, he has the wide receivers, he has the offensive line. It's do it or you're gone. And finally, Washington were playing oh my God, I've forgotten his name. They're playing a rookie quarterback last year. They now have from the Dolphins, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Harvard graduate with a big lustrous beard. He has one way of playing, and that's if there's a 20% chance your wide receiver's getting it, you're flinging it at him. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but he will have several games this year where they'll score 40 plus points. Terry McLaurin, watch out for them, third-year wide receiver. He is absolutely phenomenal. Antonio Gibson, I really, really like Washington. Their coach, Ron Rivera, has been struggling with cancer for the last 2 years. It's knitted this team together. Their defensive line is just first-round pick after first-round pick. They're going to put pressure, massive pressure, on every quarterback they play against. I really like them to win this division, or sorry, to make the playoffs at 6-4, and I really like them over 8.5 wins.
I think that's up on site as well, then, with your reasoning, isn't it, for everybody to read?
Yes, indeed, yeah. Also, Ron Rivera, when he had the Carolina Panthers and Cam Newton, it was the same sort of thing. He didn't have the best team, but he always got the best out of them. And since he was struggling with cancer, everybody's he's still coming into work, still battling through, and they just have that thing about them this year. I've actually backed them at 25-1 to win the NFC outright this year. As an outsider, not advising anybody to do that unless you're a pure degenerate, but it's there. Washington at their best could be 10-11 win team, maybe more. That's not a strong division.
We'll move on to the NFC West, where I have a little sneaky feeling for myself. I know you don't agree with me, you think I'm crazy, but I have actually, speaking of teams to win the NFC, I have Seattle at 12-1 myself as a little each way sneak to give me a bit of interest in the division throughout the season. I'll let you take it away from there, Biggie.
Yes, Seattle started like a house on fire last year. Letting Russ cook, just letting Russell Wilson do whatever he wants. Basically, they usually prefer a sort of run first offense, set up the run. They didn't go for that last year. I think they'll go a bit more towards that with Chris Carson carrying a lot of the ball, and then just let Russell Wilson sort of, when he's needed, do his crazy Russell Wilson shit outside of the pocket and keeping plays open, which is one of the best in the NFL. Also, his deep ball throwing to Tyler Lockett and the beast DK Metcalf, like, I can't see them disimproving this year. Their defense looks very dodgy. Their D line looks bad. Their offensive line to protect Russell Wilson is bad again. But if there's one guy you don't need to protect as much as Wilson, because he's like an escape artist, this is the hardest division of football. If they can win it, I don't know. I would never back them because I think their defense is terrible and they stuttered horribly last year. Pete Carroll is one of the best coaches in football, though, has shown it. So maybe he'll come up with something new this year. But the backside of their defense, like their secondary defending the pass and stuff, will be awful, I'd say, this year. So it could be in shootouts, but again, you know, if you back them, you have Russell Wilson in a shootout. No better man.
That's part of my reasoning. Now, what you say about the defense is very relevant, as I can see here, they conceded 371 points last year. Like, to put that into comparison, in the same division, like the Rams conceded 296, the Cardinals 367, and the 49ers, who will be much improved this year, obviously everybody knows what happened with them last year, only conceded 390 last year. So that is a slight worry. I just think if I'm having a little divisional bet, they'll be thereabouts and they'll give me a run for my money. That's just pretty much the reason in it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's the great thing about the NFL. Like, if in doubt, if you like a quarterback, back him. If you like Russell Wilson, put the team on his back. He could take it the whole way to the Super Bowl. Who knows? You know, especially if you're a big fan of a quarterback. I think Seattle's is about 10 this year. The overs or unders, I wouldn't touch it because their division is impossible. Going through that division, the Rams, Sean McVay has finally got rid of Jared Goff. He's brought in Matthew Stafford. Stafford is in his 30s. He's had the most potential of any quarterback for as long as I can remember. This is the chance. You've an attacking coach now, Sean McVay. Let's see it. They were the best defense in the NFL last year. Mostly based on Aaron Donald being the best player in any position in the NFL last year. He has to be double teamed constantly and he still gets to the quarterback. He makes everyone around him better. Jalen Ramsey is the best corner in the NFL. You can basically put him on any wide receiver. He shuts them down. they have 3 players. They've lost John Johnson. They have basically 3 players that they're basing the whole thing on. And then some sort of middling players who could do okay, like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are still there. I don't like the Rams to get more than 10 wins. I think this is overrated. I think their defense will regress. They're going to be worse than last year. God help them if Aaron Donald gets injured. They'll be pathetic. They've lost their defensive coordinator as well. Will not help. All on Sean McVay this year. Next, the Cardinals. Kyler Murray will have to break through this year. They show patches. They got JJ Watt in as a pass rusher, which is really, really interesting. Chandler Jones wants out, who's the second best pass rusher in the league at the moment. If he stays, the Cardinals could be really interesting. They were 500 last year. I don't know, 500 again this year, or whatever that the equivalent is, maybe 9-8. But again, they could win the division. I could see it happening. My favorite for this division is the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan is an absolute offensive genius. He's going to be starting with Jimmy Garoppolo again. Jimmy Garoppolo is bang average, but Kyle Shanahan there's so much movement and stuff in that offense. He makes it look a lot better. Look out for a huge year again from George Kittle, and their run game is going to be brilliant. The main thing that's going to help them this year, their defensive line, is going to be absolutely extraordinary with Nick Bosa coming back in. But like the 6-10 last year, just wiped out by injuries instantly. So I think, like, if I'm going for the division, I think they're about 13-5 or 12-5. I kind of like them, but my advice, betting advice for this division, don't touch it. Anybody could win it. It's too open.
All right, so that leaves us on to the NFC North, where we have the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions I'm not going to talk about. Rebuild mode. Jared Goff is in there, lost most of their players. They're building from the trenches. O-line, D-line, going to get better in the next couple of years. These guys have been drafted to take a few years to progress.
They conceded a remarkable 519 points last year.
Yeah, defense should improve this year. Offense will disimprove, so it shouldn't matter. Whatever their under is, I think it's about, they won 5 last year, around the same again. No interest in doing anything with the Lions because it's a new setup, new coach. They're just rebuilding. I have no idea how they're going to be. Couldn't bet on them. If you can get under 5.5, I'd bet that, but I think it's 5, so I'm not going to touch it. The Vikings, really, really disappointing last year. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins and around. He can't seem to win any of the bigger games. He's decent at winning average games. They're going to be on the back of Dalvin Cook again. He's one of the best running backs in the league. Adam Thielen and rookie wide receiver Justin Jefferson were brilliant last year. They have no protection for Kirk Cousins in Kirk's defense. Their O-line is bad. Their D-line is worse. In the trenches, they're going to lose a lot of games. 8 and 9 this year for me, or 7 and 10. I'm not interested. Apologies. I'm going to pop on to the Bears. Bears, Justin Fields picked. They were so lucky to get him. They're apparently starting with Andy Dalton, who was a dumpster fire last year for the Cowboys when he came in. But they'll basically, this is what the Bears are all about. Justin Fields. The Bears, they still have Khalil Mack. They still have an extraordinary defense. I think they still have the guts of that defense that they had 2 years ago. A little bit of regression defensively, but they still have a lot of stars. On offense, Matt Nagy is going to have to get something going. I expect this year is just going to be about getting Justin Fields in whenever he's right. Whether that is playing Andy Dalton for 3 or 4 weeks, losing all those games, then Justin Fields, they're like, okay, he's ready with the training. Bring him in, get him prepared for next year. Justin Fields could be a superstar in this league, but this year is more about bringing him in at the right time, whether that's week 10 or week 1, letting them sort of develop over the year, and then watch out for the Bears next year. The Packers, I absolutely love. 13 wins twice in a row. Some say it was a little bit deceptive last year. They weren't that good, but yeah, until they prove, like if Aaron Rodgers is playing and you're getting over 10.5 wins around even money, just back it. I don't care about who their coaches. I don't care who they have. Aaron Rodgers doesn't, like, he's going to win more than 10 games. So that's one of my overs bets of the year.
They're actually available, Green Bay, at 11-2 to win the NFC division, which I know I've said the Seahawks, but that would have to be tempting to people out there, considering Rodgers usually gets them thereabouts for doing that. So they would have to be. I know we haven't talked about Tampa yet or the Saints, but again, like it's nearly if you like Rodgers, that's definitely something to be looking at. I would say if you're having a season bet at nice juicy odds. What would you say to that?
If you're a Green Bay fan, I think 11-2 is a nice price. In division, their division is soft. There's a soft belly to it this year. So like I could see them winning 5 of the 6 games in those divisions. Maybe they'll lose an away game to the Bears or the Vikings. They could win all the games in their division and cruise to 12 or 13 wins, 14 wins, get that top seed. They get a bye, then you're 2 games off. Barring injuries, I can't see how they won't be in the mixer for it this year. So I quite like that 11-2.
Yeah, they actually won the conference last year as well.
Yeah. Sorry, they won the division. They lost the conference final to Tampa Bay on the way.
That's right. My bad. So we'll move on to finally the NFC South.
Yeah. Sean Payton is like an extraordinary attacking coach. He's been brilliant. Drew Brees has finally retired after carrying sort of the state of New Orleans on his back for so many years. They didn't get him back. So it's going to be Taysom Hill, who's a bad thrower of the ball, but an average runner of the ball, or Jameis Winston, who is the most reckless bastard in the NFL with the ball. He's had a 5,000-yard season for Tampa Bay 2 years ago when he was flinging it all over the place. He also hit 30 or so interceptions that year. So whichever one of them he goes with, I don't know. Sean Payton is going to have to think of something genius. Their wide receivers are in trouble. Michael Thomas is injured again. He's one of the best in the league, but he might have to be traded. He's just been injured too many times. How many times can he give the ball to Alvin Kamara? I don't know, but it's basically all on his back. The Saints, I think they could be around 500-ish this year, whatever the equivalent is, 7 or 8 games maybe. It's going to be a huge fallback. But saying that, Sean Payton is a genius. Maybe he'll figure something out where Jameis Winston plays between the 20s and Taysom Hill just as a red zone quarterback. If anybody can do it, he can. But their weapons in this division look very, very poor. Maybe the worst wide receiving core in the NFL without Michael Thomas. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my favorite for the Super Bowl this year. You can get them at 7-1. Tom Brady's 44 or whatever age he is, but he's a freak, and he's brought all the boys back again. It's very, very hard for some. If it was any other team without Brady, I wouldn't touch them to win 2 Super Bowls on the bounce. That's extraordinarily hard to do. Brady has a way of galvanizing teams together that no other, I've never seen from anyone else. Ask Bill Belichick how easy it is to get your team back together after Tom leaves. Yeah, he's extraordinary. He's bringing all the boys back. Their wide receivers are absolutely extraordinary. He has any amount of people to throw to. I think they'll cruise this division, this division, which is very soft. And they're going to be thereabouts. They're my Super Bowl favorite this year. The Panthers.
Just before you move on there on the books, just one thing I have noticed, especially about Brady, is he just seems to do enough to make the playoffs, and he just turns into a different man when the playoffs come. I know everything has been spoken about Brady in the past by much more knowledgeable people than myself, but just strikes me like they lost 5 games last year, but once they hit the playoffs, they were just a completely different team. There's just something about him that once they hit the playoffs, it's like he just peaks for the playoffs, and there's not many quarterbacks that do that. And I don't think there's that many quarterbacks that can have that effect on a team, even if they are peaking for the playoffs. Just, he seems to, as you said, galvanize the whole team, and they all, doesn't matter where he is, whether he's at the Patriots or whether he's at the Bucks, but like he just seems to galvanize them for the playoffs. And once they hit the playoffs, they're probably the team to beat again.
Yeah, it's the same thing every year. Say the Saints absolutely destroyed them with their brilliant defensive line last year, sacked him constantly. He looked a shadow of himself. He was running for his life for most of the game. But then at crunch time, there's never been a better sportsman at crunch time, barring maybe like Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods. And because he's so unbelievably confident in his ability at crunch time, that passes on to everybody else. Also, they might have the best squad overall in the league. So yeah, he's the best clutch player I've ever seen. To talk about the rest of the division very quickly, Panthers, Sam Darnold in was awful for the Jets. The Jets had no weapons. Panthers have slightly improved. Matt Rule is an awesome offensive coach. We're going to see if Sam Darnold is any good. Panthers, I don't know what their under-over is. I don't care. Don't bet anything. Falcons lost Julio Jones. They still have Calvin Ridley is brilliant. Kyle Pitts is coming in, one of the most exciting sort of tight end talents I've seen in my lifetime. Can't wait to see what they're like. Don't think they're going to win more than 6 or 7 games. So, but they'll be very interesting to watch. Mr. Lunchtime, what happened?
Just one thing on the Falcons. I have a little season bet myself for the Falcons. Which, as you said, Jones gone and Calvin Ridley. There's an extra game this year. Ridley had 90 receptions last year. He's priced up at 98.5 this year at 10-11. It's going in my account. I just think that with the extra game and the extra workload, I know Jones missed a lot of games last year, but even so, I think he's going to be the main guy there this year. And to get 98.5 receptions, 10-11, he's going in my accumulator at that.
Yeah, I quite like that as well. Barring injuries, unless he gets injured, which he hasn't shown any injuries in his first 2 years, any major injuries, he's going to be an absolute bell cow. He's going to be fed the ball a lot. So yeah, I like that one.
All right, and that wraps it up. So I think we've covered it all there, Biggie, and exciting times of the season not far away now.
I absolutely can't wait, and we'll pop up weekly. We'll pop up a hunch list of some of the bets that we like. Some of the there's going to be like wins, losses. We'll be messing around with the spreads a bit, a few parlays, but keep an eye on hunchtime.com. And if you like if our tips match up with yours, hopefully just give us a shout out on Twitter or Instagram.
Oh, thank you very much, Biggie. Pleasure as always.
Thanks, Lunchy. See you later.